Since the dawn of time, humans have looked to the stars. "59 years ago, we took our first step to reaching them. This unmanned craft, called Sputnik 1, helped scientists assess the electron density of the ionosphere by measuring signals emitted from its two radio transmitters. But Sputnik's true significance lies within the subsequent events it triggered. A ball with 4 antennae sparked a space race between the Soviet Union and the United States that began as a political competition but would eventually blossom into an international effort.
Members of the NACA staff, this is my first opportunity to greet you as Deputy Administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Following this success by the Soviet Union, President Dwight D. Eisenhower established the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which was born out of its predecessor NACA, tasked with putting a man in space before the Soviets. Newly formed NASA immediately created Project Mercury, an unfinished program started by the U.S. Air Force in the late 1950s.
But meantime, I very much want to talk with you about our future.
But NASA was too late. 4 years after the launch of Sputnik 1, a Soviet cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin, became the first man in space. Fitted with a 2-stage K-series rocket, part of a family of rockets by the same name, Vostok 1 propelled Gagarin into orbit, making him the first man in space and placing increased pressure on NASA. Today, Gagarin remains a national hero in Russia and around the world. With the Soviet Union handily winning the space race and the end of the Cold War nowhere in sight, President John F. Kennedy addressed Congress on May 21, 1961, and the American people on September 12, 1962, about the importance of the United States emerging as the global authority in space exploration.
These are extraordinary times, and we face an extraordinary challenge. Our strength as well as our convictions have imposed upon this nation the role of leader in freedom's cause.
I am delighted to be here, and I'm particularly delighted to be here on this occasion. We meet at a college noted for knowledge, in a city noted for progress, in a state noted for strength, and we stand in need of all three. For we meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. Despite the striking fact that most of the scientists that the world has ever known are alive and working today, despite the fact that this nation's own scientific manpower is doubling every 12 years in a rate of growth more than 3 times that of our population as a whole, despite that, the vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
Then, Kennedy turned to NASA itself and posed a challenge.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
In response to Kennedy's challenge, NASA rapidly advanced Project Mercury.
Lift off. All right, lift off and the clock is started.
Mercury's main goal was to assess human functionality in space.
This is Freedom 7. The fuel is go. 1.2 G. Cabin at 14 psi. Oxygen is go.
On May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard became the second man and first American in space, and by 1963, Project Mercury, utilizing a two-stage liquid-cooled line of rockets called Atlas D, successfully launched 6 men into space.
This is 7. Fuel is go. 1.8 G. 8 psi cabin, and the oxygen is go.
With Kennedy's goal fresh in the minds of NASA's scientists and the successes of Project Mercury, Project Gemini was created.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Unlike Mercury, Gemini's main objective was to conduct low Earth orbit missions wherein 2-man crews would accomplish tasks in a zero-gravity environment and perform extravehicular activities, or EVAs.
Gemini 4, Hawaii, Capcom. So we just had word from Houston. We're ready to have you get out whenever you're ready.
Okay, we gotta go now, is that right?
Affirmative.
Okay, we're still doing a little work right here.
Roger, understand. Get his status, Hawaii. Gemini 4, Hawaii, Capcom.
Okay, I'm separated from the spacecraft.
Okay, separate from the spacecraft this time, Hawaii.
Okay, my feet are out. I think I'm dragging a little bit, so I don't want to fire the gun yet. Okay, I'm out.
Okay, now, close free.
Okay, I put a little roll in, took it right out. I in your deal, Jimbo? Yeah, you know, I get on the tracer. Don't sweat it, I'll come over to you. Let's put that to fly, but I'll just put it in. All right. Okay, I rolled off. I'm rolling to the right now. Under my own influence. Those are, it's like a thermal brush, Jim. It is, All right. Now, I've done about the spacecraft.
Gemini, like Mercury, was very successful and led to the creation of arguably the most famous of the NASA programs.
I feel like $1 million. Coming back to you. 2, 1.
Project Apollo is the NASA program that finally met Kennedy's challenge. Project Apollo consisted of several manned missions to the moon, including Apollo 7, which came within a few hundred feet of the lunar surface. Then, on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong made history and became the first man to step foot on Earth's moon.
4 forward, drift into the right a little. Down a half. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. I'm going to step off the limb now.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over. I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
That's all right, I don't mind a bit.
They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Houston?
Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field of view now.
I'd like to evaluate the various paces that a person can traveling on the lunar surface. You do have to be. All right, you do have to be rather careful to keep track of where your center of mass is. Sometimes it takes about 2 or 3 paces to make sure that you've got your feet underneath you.
With astronauts Buzz Aldrin behind him and Michael Collins orbiting above in the retrieval module, the crew of Apollo 11 paved the way for several more Apollo missions that ultimately ended the space race and ushered in an era of collaborative space efforts.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. Now, May, when much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes. Oh, is this a neat way to travel? Isn't it great? I like to skip along. But me, boy, skip. Man, you are really bouncing. Okay, when he hits the craters and starts bouncing is when he gets his rooster tail. He makes sharp turns. Hey, that was a good stop. Those wheels just locked. Mark off. That's what looks like it's waving in a breeze. Yes, sir. How about right there? A couple this way, and we'll take a couple that way. How's that? Well, let me get over the other side. You get the rover in the background. Yeah, in the limb. It does wave when you do that.
We got a beautiful picture of you guys up down there.
Let me tell you, Bob, this flag is a beautiful picture.
When the lunar missions of the Apollo program ended in 1975, NASA shifted its mindset toward unmanned space missions, with the intent of studying the celestial bodies. One such group of missions was named Voyager.
NASA launched Voyager 1 and 2 in 1977, with the main objective of conducting up-close observations of the Jovian planets. However, both craft had another objective. Once their observations were complete, both Voyager 1 and 2 were sent hurtling toward the edge of our solar system and beyond. Both craft are still active today, and Voyager 1 recently became the first human craft to go interstellar, passing the boundary of our sun's light called the heliosphere. Aboard both craft is a message to any fellow life forms among the cosmos. The message, stored in a phonograph gold-plated copper record, contains sounds and images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth. The 1980s saw the creation of the Space Shuttle program. Several shuttles flew numerous missions between 1981 and 2011.
T-minus 17, 16, 15, 13, 12, 11, 10. Your goal, remain engine start, 8.
Before launch, each shuttle was fitted with a pair of solid rocket boosters, the most powerful ever flown. The Space Shuttle was the first reusable spacecraft, able to land in a plane-like fashion at the end of each mission. The Space Shuttle's ability to transport cargo and people was essential in the formation of the epitome of international collaboration, the International Space Station. The first component of the International Space Station was launched in 1998. The formation of this scientific hub marked the beginning of a truly global effort in space.
That was an exciting part, that all of the different countries that contributed, Japan, Canada, the Soviets, this became really something that everyone could be proud of, and something that's continuously manned. Imagine that, that we have people continuously in space for year after year. Scott Kelly just finished practically a year in space. And I think this is one of the important parts of it. Here's a place where someone could live for a year in a habitat, and you can envision something that I think is even grander. And I think that's probably where we're going, that the space station was a step off the Earth, and to see, can we survive? And the answer is yes, we can.
Pressurized modules provide astronauts with livable habitats, and solar arrays feed the station power. Many experiments are conducted on board and usually pertain to the way materials behave in a microgravity environment. With the ISS circling above, NASA has a scientific headquarters both on the ground and in space, ushering in a new age of unprecedented exploration. Presently, NASA is funneling much of its effort toward putting humans on Mars.
A lot of similarities to Earth, and we kind of imagine Mars could have grown into an Earth, except it was interrupted. The loss of its magnetic field and then its atmosphere meant that it could never really develop into a life-bearing planet. Although, maybe it did. Maybe there is life there. And the curiosity that we have as humans, is there somebody else out there, right? I mean, this is why we do all of this. We want to find out, are we alone? Wouldn't it be terrible if we were all alone? It would be horrible. So I think we want to show that the ingredients for life are not just on the Earth, but ubiquitous. And we're seeing evidence, not just from the missions to the planets, but to the missions to the asteroids and the comets. We're discovering that the ingredients of life are everywhere.
Stable. Brim stable.
The first step was the rover Curiosity.
UHF is good. Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
Who has literally been blazing the trail for humanity on the Red Planet. With the private sector now a major player in the space travel game, the possibilities seem endless.
What's really exciting is that private industry could make it more efficient. I think they're motivated to earn something off of this venture. So NASA has already said, you guys, if you can do a good job, if you can launch our materials and equipment and ferry our astronauts to the space station, we need you. And so there's a job waiting to be filled, money to be made. The businessmen out there must love that. So I think that's great, and I think that they can be more efficient as a private company. The thing I really love, SpaceX, for example, to me is fantastic as an example to follow in life, because I think that they're so open. Their transparency is really amazing. I go to their webpage and I go to the YouTube channel showing all the footage of launches, and they show successes and failures, everything. It doesn't matter in a way. And I think that if my students see that, my hope is that they learn from that they learn that mistakes are just part of the journey, and you take it as a learning experience and do better next time. What's really exciting is that we have this idea that we can understand the universe at a fundamental level. Perhaps the concept of string theory, perhaps something that doesn't exist yet. We will be able to perhaps manipulate space-time. So I hope that humanity will get a chance to explore wide, far and wide, because we're curious creatures. We want to see it for ourselves. Humanity will be driven by curiosity to continue to just explore the universe way beyond our solar system. We're going to have to go to the stars.